Vera's small hands worked tirelessly, lifting heavy ore from the jagged cliffs of Zythera. The sun of her planet barely reached through the thick smoke of the industrial complexes, painting everything in shades of gray and orange. Her skin, a soft violet that marked her as a young Lyran, was streaked with dust and sweat. Around her, other Lyrans moved with the same weary rhythm, their expressions hollow, eyes reflecting years of labor under the corporation's harsh rule. They had been told that their planet was too wild, too dangerous, too unfit to govern themselves. That was the lie that kept them enslaved. Vera's heart ached, not just from the back-breaking work, but from the memories of her family, taken years ago to distant colonies. She had been forced into servitude at the age of 16, the same age she had learned that escape was impossible. Guards with glowing energy rifles patrolled the cliffs, scanning for anyone who dared slow down or show weakness. Punishments were swift and brutal. Her mind drifted, as it often did, to the stories her mother had whispered before she disappeared. Stories of other worlds, of beings who were free and strong. Humans, her mother had said, were unpredictable. They were curious and brave, sometimes reckless, but they had a spark that none of the corporate overlords possessed. At the time, Vera had dismissed it as a fairy tale, a dream to comfort herself in the endless gray. That morning, however, the sky above the mining complex shifted. A small craft descended from the clouds, moving differently than the corporation's patrol ships. Its shape was unfamiliar, sleek and sharp, with a silver glint that reflected the harsh sunlight. Vera's supervisor barked orders, pointing toward the approaching vessel. "Prepare the defenses!" he shouted, though none of the guards seemed to know how to face something like this. The ship landed with surprising precision. A hatch opened, and a human emerged. He wore a suit that gleamed in the sun, with tools strapped to his belt and a small device in his hand that hummed with quiet energy. His eyes scanned the area, and then, with a confidence that made the Lyrans pause, he walked straight through the guards, avoiding their blaster shots with ease. Vera froze. Her instinct screamed at her to run, but something in the human's movements was different. He wasn't attacking. He wasn't trying to dominate. He moved as if he belonged. Yet he clearly did not. The guards fired again, and this time, the human raised his device. A pulse of light struck the rifles, short-circuiting them. Sparks flew, and the guards staggered backward, stunned. Chaos erupted. Lyrans ducked and ran, unsure what to do. Vera felt a pull in her chest, a hope she had not felt in years. The human approached, extending a hand toward her. "Come with me," he said, his voice calm but firm. She hesitated. She had been trained to fear strangers, especially humans, but something in his eyes, a combination of determination and compassion, told her this was not a trap. She stepped forward, and before the guards could recover, he grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the ship. Inside, the ship was bright and clean, nothing like the dirty, oppressive world outside. Panels of glowing blue lined the walls, and the air smelled crisp and cool. The human motioned for her to sit, and as she did, she studied him. He was tall, with dark hair and strong features, but there was softness in his expression that made her feel safe for the first time in years. "I'm Elias," he said. "You're safe now. I won't let them hurt you." Vera's mouth opened, but no words came. The word safe felt alien. She had not been safe in years. Her mind raced, weighing every possibility, every risk. But then, the memory of the guards' stunned faces and the pulse that had disarmed them told her this man had power she could not deny. Elias studied her closely, reading the hesitation and fear. "I need to know your name," he said gently. "Vera," she whispered. "Vera," he repeated, nodding. "Good. We're going to get you off this planet. I can't promise it will be easy, but you won't be alone." As the ship lifted off, the landscape of Zythera spread beneath them. The mining complexes looked like anthills, tiny against the sprawling planet. Vera pressed her hand against the glass, seeing her home from above, and felt a strange mixture of sorrow and hope. She had known only servitude, but now, for the first time, freedom seemed possible. The journey was tense. Elias piloted the ship through narrow asteroid fields to avoid corporate patrols. Vera watched, fascinated, as he adjusted controls with precision, his movements almost dancing across the panels. She realized that humans, despite their fragile appearance, were capable of incredible ingenuity. "Why are you helping me?" she asked finally, unable to contain her curiosity. Elias glanced at her, a faint smile on his lips. "Because no one deserves to be treated like that. Because someone has to stand up when others won't. And because humans have something to learn from people like you, too." Vera tilted her head, considering his words. She had heard the tales of humans being arrogant, reckless, and self-centered. Yet this one was different. He did not see her as a trophy or a curiosity. He saw her as a person, someone who deserved freedom. As hours passed, they spoke more. Vera told Elias about the Lyrons, their abilities, and the cruel systems that had been forced upon them. Elias listened intently, taking notes and asking questions. He realized that the Lyrons were not weak. They had been oppressed, yes, but their intelligence and energy manipulation skills were extraordinary. A partnership could be powerful if trust could be built. By the time Zythera disappeared behind them, Vera felt a cautious optimism. She still feared the corporation. They would not forget a stolen asset. But for the first time, she believed escape was possible. She also felt a strange curiosity about the human beside her. This Elias. He was unlike anyone she had ever met, clever and brave, but also compassionate. Night came aboard the ship, though it was not night in the traditional sense. The artificial lights bathed the cabin in soft blue hues. Vera rested against a wall, exhausted but unable to sleep. Her mind replayed the day's events, the pulse of light, the stunned guards, the liftoff into freedom. It was surreal. Elias noticed her quiet state and approached. "You don't have to speak if you're tired," he said softly. "I know this is a lot."
"I have never seen anything like this," Vera admitted. "I never imagined someone would come for me. No one ever has."
Elias crouched beside her. "Then it's time someone did."
"You're not alone anymore, and I won't let them take that from you." The words sank in slowly. Vera felt warmth spread through her chest. Perhaps, just perhaps, the stories her mother had whispered about humans being brave and unpredictable were true. Perhaps they could be allies, not enemies. Suddenly, alarms blared. A warning flashed across the control panel. Corporate ships were on their tail, faster and more numerous than anything Vera had imagined. A sense of immediate danger returned, sharp and biting. She felt her old fear rise, but Elias's calm demeanor steadied her. "They're not going to catch us," he said, his hands moving deftly across the controls.
"I've seen worse. We'll lose them."
Byra watched as he maneuvered the ship, weaving through asteroid fields and dodging energy blasts. She realized then that humans had a boldness that Lyrons often lacked under oppression. They were willing to take risks, to defy odds that seemed impossible. Hours later, the corporate ships fell back, unable to match the Star Warden's speed and agility. The threat was not gone, but it was at bay for now. Vera leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. She had escaped the first trap, survived the first attack, and discovered something new: freedom, and a human who might just be a friend. As she closed her eyes, the weight of years of enslavement lifted slightly. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, corporate forces, unknown dangers in space, but tonight she could dream. For the first time, Vera allowed herself to imagine a life beyond servitude, a life where she could choose her path and perhaps trust someone else with her heart. The Star Warden glided silently through the blackness of space, leaving Zythera's oppressive surface far behind. Vera sat near the observation window, her violet skin illuminated by the soft glow of distant stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly, and for the first time, she felt a strange mix of fear and wonder. Freedom was not just an idea anymore. It was a reality. Fragile, but real. Elias worked at the control panels, his hands moving with practiced precision. His focus was sharp, calculating routes, monitoring energy levels, and keeping an eye on pursuing corporate ships. Bira studied him quietly. Humans were strange beings, fragile in appearance but strong in ways she could not yet understand. He was not just clever, he was fearless, willing to face danger for the sake of others.
How long until we're safe? Vera asked finally.
Her voice sounded small in the vast cabin.
Elias didn't look up immediately.
Safe is relative, he said with a small grin.
The corporation will not forget what happened today. They will try again. But we can stay ahead if we're careful.
Vera frowned. The word careful sounded different coming from a human. On Zythera, careful meant hiding, waiting, obeying. But Elias seemed to mean something else. Careful with courage, careful with strategy, not surrender. Why did you come for me? She asked.
I don't understand why you risked yourself for someone you don't even know.
Elias paused, finally meeting her gaze. Because someone has to. Because no one deserves to live like that. And because I saw something in you. Something they tried to hide. Your strength. Your mind. I wanted to give you a chance to show it to the world. Bira's heart beat faster. She had been taught to believe herself weak, to believe that the world had no place for her choices or ideas. And yet, here was a human telling her that she mattered, that her abilities were not only recognized, but valued. For the first time, she wondered if humans were more than myths, more than stories of reckless conquerors. Hours passed as they traveled through uncharted systems, avoiding corporate patrols. Vera learned quickly, absorbing Elias's explanations about ship systems, navigation, and energy manipulation. The Star Warden was unlike any Lyron craft she had seen. It was sleek, efficient, and responsive, almost alive in the way it reacted to commands.
You're learning fast, Elias remarked, noticing her interest. I didn't expect that.
Most aliens aren't interested in human tech unless forced. Vira's ears twitched, a small sign of amusement in her species. I am not most aliens, she said softly. I have seen what happens when people remain powerless. I do not wish to be powerless again. Elias nodded, understanding the depth behind her words. He had rescued many in his travels, but something about Vera was different. She was not fragile. She was capable, clever, and observant. She had endured years of slavery and had emerged with her mind intact, sharper than most humans he had met. He knew that if they could work together, they could accomplish far more than mere escape. Their calm moment was interrupted by the blinking red alert on the console. Corporate pursuit ships had spotted them again, faster this time, more aggressive. Elias moved with urgency, his hands flying across the controls. They've caught our trail, he said.
Hold on!
Vera gripped the edge of the observation platform, her pulse quickening. She had escaped once, but she realized that freedom was not given. It was taken, fought for, and protected. She felt a strange surge of determination. She was no longer a victim. She was part of a team, and that meant responsibility. Elias maneuvered the Star Warden through an asteroid belt, weaving between massive rocks with a skill that made Vera gasp. Energy blasts from the corporate ships ricocheted off asteroids, illuminating the darkness in brief flashes. Vera watched as Elias calculated every move, using the natural hazards of space to their advantage.
You're incredible,
she whispered.
half to herself.
Elias glanced at her, a brief smile touching his lips.
I've had practice, but don't think I'm the only one who can learn.
You'll need to know this, too, if we want to survive out here.
Vera nodded, determination hardening within her. She was tired of hiding. She was tired of being told she had no choice. She would learn, she would fight, and she would survive. Once the corporate ships were temporarily outmaneuvered, Elias let the Star Warden drift into a quieter region of space. The stars were fewer here, the darkness thicker, but it was safer. For now. Vera leaned against the console, studying a holographic map. She realized how much she had never known about the universe beyond Zythera. Planets, moons, nebulae, all waiting to be explored, to be understood. "Do humans always fight for strangers?" she asked cautiously. Elias chuckled. "Not always. Some fight for money, some for power. But the ones worth knowing, we fight for what's right, even if the odds are against us." Vera considered this. On Zythera, she had seen countless beings willing to obey for comfort or fear, never for justice. Humans were strange creatures. They could be reckless, yes, but they also had something rare. Courage rooted in choice, not survival. Days passed in this uneasy quiet. Elias taught Vera how to operate parts of the Star Warden systems, how to monitor energy flows, and how to navigate small asteroid clusters. She absorbed everything with an intensity that surprised even her. She had spent years in servitude, learning obedience, fear, and survival. But now she was learning strategy, science, and hope. One evening, as the ship drifted near a small, uninhabited planet, Vera approached Elias. "Why do you care so much about others?" she asked.
Elias paused, thinking, "Because someone has to," he said simply.
"And because if we don't, who will? I've seen what happens when people ignore suffering. It spreads. I've lost people I cared about because no one stepped in. I won't let that happen again. Not if I can stop it." Vera felt a connection growing between them. Not just trust, but understanding. This human was different from any she had encountered. He saw beyond her species, beyond her circumstances. He saw her as capable, intelligent, and worthy of respect. And for the first time, Vera allowed herself to hope that she could be more than what the corporation had forced her to be. The peace did not last long. Sensors picked up another fleet of corporate ships, larger and faster than before. Vera's ears twitched with fear, but she did not flee. She had learned something from Elias. Fear could be acknowledged, but not allowed to control action. "We can't outrun them forever," Elias said, his eyes scanning the display. "We'll have to outsmart them." "Then we plan," she said firmly. "I know the energy fields on Zythera. I can help you." Elias turned to her, impressed. "You mean it?" "I mean it," Vera replied. "I've watched their systems." "I know their weaknesses. Let me help." And so, for the first time, Vera was not a passive passenger. She became a strategist, pointing out routes, predicting patrol patterns, and suggesting maneuvers that even Elias admitted were clever. Together, they created a plan to lead the corporate fleet into a trap near an asteroid cluster. The execution was tense. Elias piloted the ship with precision, while Vera directed him, predicting where energy blasts would come and how to use the environment to their advantage. The corporate ships followed, confident in their speed and numbers, until the Star Warden slipped through a narrow canyon between two massive asteroids. The pursuing ships collided, damaged by the rocks and confused by Vera's clever calculations. When the danger passed, Vera allowed herself a small laugh. "We did it," she said, disbelief and exhilaration mixing in her voice. Elias grinned, clapping her on the shoulder. "We did. Not bad for a human and a Laron, huh?" Vera felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of pride and belonging she had never known. She was no longer a slave, no longer powerless. She had skills, knowledge, and courage, and she was part of a team that valued her for exactly who she was. As they drifted into the quiet of space, Vera realized that this was just the beginning. Zythera was still in danger, her people still oppressed, and the corporation still powerful. But now, she had allies, and she had a plan. Together, she and Elias could fight, not just to survive, but to change the galaxy. For the first time, Vera allowed herself to imagine a future, one where Larans were free, where humans and aliens could stand together, and where courage and intelligence mattered more than fear and oppression. And beside her, Elias worked tirelessly, proof that humans could rise to challenges, think faster than machines, and act when others only watched. The Star Warden sailed on, carrying two unlikely allies toward an uncertain but promising future. And as the stars stretched endlessly around them, Vera felt something she had never felt before. Hope, fierce and unshakable, lighting the path ahead. The Star Warden descended quietly toward Zythera's surface, gliding past the jagged cliffs and sprawling mining complexes that had once imprisoned Vera. The planet looked the same from orbit, gray and harsh, yet something had changed. Vera saw it in her mind's eye. Her people were still captive, still struggling. But now there was a spark of hope. She would make sure that spark became a flame. Elias piloted the ship with skill, keeping it hidden in a dense cloud of dust and debris near the largest mining facility. The corporate surveillance systems were sophisticated, but they were not infallible. Vera had studied them long enough to know their blind spots, and she guided Elias toward one of the oldest, least monitored access points. "Are you sure about this?" Elias asked, glancing at her.
This is risky.
"They could detect us any second."
I am sure, Vera said, her voice firm. I know this place.
"I know where the guards rotate, where the patrols are light. We can do this without being seen, if we are careful." Elias nodded, trusting her judgment. He had learned quickly that Vera's knowledge of Zythera's systems and terrain was invaluable. Together, they were not just survivors. They were strategists, capable of outsmarting an enemy that had once seemed unstoppable. They landed the Star Warden near a hidden canyon, far from the main access roads. Vera led Elias through narrow tunnels carved into the rock, places the corporate machines could not easily reach. Every step reminded her of the years she had spent in fear, the endless labor, and the cruel eyes of supervisors who saw her as nothing more than a tool. But that fear no longer controlled her. Now, she had purpose. At the edge of the canyon, they encountered a small group of Lyrons hiding from the guards. Their eyes widened at the sight of Vera, alive and free, standing with a human beside her. Whispers ran through the group, disbelief and cautious hope mingling in their voices. "Vera!" one of them asked, stepping forward. "Is it really you?" She nodded, her violet skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "It's his, and I've brought help." She gestured to Elias. "This is Elias. He's human, but he's here to fight for you, not against you. And I've learned enough to help us take back what was stolen." The Lyrans exchanged uncertain glances. Trust did not come easily. Years of oppression had taught them that even a moment of hope could lead to disaster. But seeing Vera, alive and confident, ignited something dormant within them. One by one, they began to nod, their fear giving way to determination. Vera and Elias spent the next hours planning. They studied patrol routes, mapped weak points in the corporate defenses, and coordinated signals that would allow them to move quickly without detection. Vera's knowledge of the energy grids that powered the mining equipment became a key advantage. She explained how they could overload certain circuits to create diversions, giving the Lyrans opportunities to escape.
"We can't just run," Vera said firmly. "We have to fight smart."
"They have numbers, weapons, and machines, but they don't have strategy."
"They don't have courage combined with intelligence. That is our advantage."
Elias smiled. You sound like a commander already.
"I think you were born for this." Night fell, and with it came the operation. Vera led a small team through the shadows, their movements silent and precise. Elias stayed aboard the Star Warden, monitoring the facility and ready to provide support with long-range systems. From hidden positions, they triggered small power surges, lights flickering and machinery halting unexpectedly. Guards rushed to investigate, only to find empty corridors and clever traps laid by Vera and her team. The first wave of freed Lyrans moved quickly through the tunnels, guided by Vera's signals. Her heart pounded as she watched them flee from the mines, each one carrying hope for the first time in years. Some stumbled, exhausted from years of labor, but Vera and her team helped them, offering strength and guidance. At the central control hub, Ilias coordinated remotely, using the Star Warden systems to jam communications and create temporary energy shields. The corporate forces were momentarily blinded, their weapons malfunctioning due to the clever use of Zythera's energy fields. But the corporation was not idle. A squad of elite guards detected irregularities and moved toward the control hub. Vera realized they had to act fast or risk the entire plan collapsing. She turned to the Lyrans who had followed her, explaining how to manipulate the energy nodes to create barriers and traps. The Lyrans hesitated at first, fear flickering in their eyes. But Vera's confidence was contagious. Together they triggered the nodes, sending bursts of controlled energy through the corridors, blocking the corporate squad and forcing them back. The battle intensified. Vera and Elias moved with precision, anticipating every move of the enemy. Vera's knowledge of the terrain allowed her to set ambushes, while Elias used his human ingenuity to devise unexpected tactics. Corporate drones flew overhead, scanning for intruders, but the combination of human technology and Lyran energy manipulation made them ineffective. Vera felt a surge of pride as she watched her people fight back. They were no longer slaves. They were warriors. Every step, every decision, was a testament to the resilience of beings who had been underestimated for too long. Humans had taught her strategy. Courage had taught her to act. And now, the Lyrans were reclaiming their dignity. At the heart of the facility, Vera confronted the supervisor who had once ruled over her with cruelty. He sneered, confident in his authority, but Vera's resolve did not waver. Using a combination of quick thinking and energy control, she disarmed him, leaving him incapacitated without serious harm. Elias joined her shortly after, and together they coordinated the final wave of the rescue. More Lyrans emerged from hidden passages, the sound of their voices echoing through the complex. The corporate forces, disoriented and overwhelmed, began to retreat. The mines that had once been prisons were now the stage for liberation. Hours later, the facility was silent. The rescued Lyrans gathered outside, looking at Vera and Elias with awe and gratitude. They had been free for only a few hours, but in that time, they had tasted what it meant to reclaim their lives. Vera looked around at the faces of her people, seeing the spark of determination that had once been buried under fear. She realized that leadership was not about power. It was about inspiring courage, guiding strategy, and believing in the potential of others.
Elias approached, his expression calm but proud.
"You did it," he said simply. Vera shook her head. "We did it," she corrected. "All of us." Together, the Lyrans began to plan their next steps. They needed to secure the planet, rebuild communities, and prevent the corporation from returning. Vera and Elias offered guidance, teaching them what they had learned about strategy, technology, and cooperation. The Star Warden became a mobile command center, ready to assist wherever needed. As night fell over Zythera, Vera stood atop a ridge, looking out at the mining complexes that had once chained her. Now they were empty, silent, powerless, against the will of those who refused to be oppressed. She felt a sense of calm, but also awareness. The corporation would not give up easily. Their fight was far from over. Elias joined her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've done something incredible," he said. "You've shown them that fear is not the strongest force. Courage, intelligence, and unity are." Vera nodded. "And they've learned something about humans, too," she added with a small smile. "You don't just conquer or destroy. You fight for what is right. I think that's one of the few things worth doing. The wind carried the faint hum of energy from the liberated mines, a reminder of both the planet's wealth and the potential it held when wielded wisely. Vera realized that true freedom was not just escaping chains. It was taking control of your life, your choices, and your future. The night stretched on, stars shimmering above, as Vera and Elias planned their next moves. They would strengthen defenses, teach more Lyrans to use their abilities strategically, and prepare for any retaliation from the corporation. But for now, there was a quiet satisfaction in knowing that a single act of courage, supported by clever strategy and partnership, could ignite a revolution. Vera felt a sense of connection not just to Elias, but to the idea that beings from different worlds could stand together. Humans had shown bravery and innovation, Lyrans had shown resilience and adaptability, and together they had achieved what seemed impossible. As the first light of Zythera's twin suns touched the horizon, Vera allowed herself a small moment of rest. The fight was not over, but hope was alive, and she had learned that hope combined with action was stronger than any chain. Elias watched her from nearby, noting the resolve in her posture. She had grown in strength, intelligence, and leadership. He knew that the rebellion they had begun would not just change Zythera, it would send a message across the galaxy. Humans were not weak, Lyrans were not powerless, and together, they could face any challenge. The day ahead promised more trials, more strategy, and more daring actions. But Vera no longer felt fear. She felt purpose, partnership, and the unshakable knowledge that even the smallest spark could ignite a blaze. The liberation of Zythera had begun, and the galaxy would never forget the courage of a human who dared to help and a Lyran who refused to remain a slave. Together they had shown that freedom was not given. It was earned, fought for, and claimed. The Star Warden hovered above the central mining facility, its engines humming softly, as if holding its breath. Below, Zythera's sprawling complexes lay silent, broken only by the faint movement of Lyrans preparing for the next stage of their liberation. Vera stood at the edge of the observation platform, her violet skin glowing faintly in the pale light. She could see every detail of the complex. The guards' patrol patterns, the energy grids that powered the mining machines, and the weak points in the corporation's defenses. This was their moment. Elias joined her, his human presence steady and reassuring.
"Ready?" he asked. Vera nodded. "We've come this far. There's no turning back now." The plan was precise.
While some Lyrans disabled communications and opened escape routes for captives, Vera and Elias would target the corporate command hub. It was the heart of the facility, controlling security drones, energy fields, and alarms. If they could take it, the rest of the operation would move faster and with less risk. They descended in the Star Warden through a narrow canyon, avoiding detection by the main sensors. Vera guided Elias, pointing out hidden pathways and weak points in the facility's perimeter. Her knowledge of the terrain gave them an edge no human or machine could anticipate. Inside the facility, the air was thick with the hum of machinery. Guards patrolled the corridors, unaware that their world was about to change. Vera moved swiftly, her senses alert to every sound, every flicker of light. Elias followed closely, his hands ready on his tools and weapons prepared for whatever came. They reached a control room, heavily guarded, but Vera had a plan. She activated a small device that disrupted the energy nodes controlling the door locks. Sparks flew as the doors slid open silently. The guards inside were startled, but Elias moved faster. With a few precise maneuvers, he disabled their weapons and immobilized them without causing serious harm. "This way," Vera whispered, leading him deeper into the hub. They encountered more resistance, corporate drones flying in programmed patterns to intercept intruders. Vera had studied their movements and guided Elias to manipulate energy conduits along the walls. When activated, the conduits sent a pulse that short-circuited the drones, sending them crashing harmlessly to the floor.
Elias grinned. "You're full of surprises," he said.
Vera smirked. "I've had years to learn them." At last, they reached the central control console. Panels blinked with the status of the entire facility. Energy grids, security cameras, mining operations, and prisoner cells. Vera's eyes widened with both relief and determination.
"This was it. Watch the main power grid," she instructed Elias. "I'll handle the controls."
With practiced precision, Vera rerouted energy flows, shutting down the security systems one by one. Alarms blared briefly, but then died as communications were cut off. Prisoners in nearby cells were freed, guided by Lyrans who had learned the system from Vera's earlier instructions. Hope and determination replaced fear in their eyes. Elias monitored the corridors outside, ready to provide backup.
"They'll notice soon,"
he warned. Vera's fingers flew over the controls. "Let them," she said. "We're ready." The first wave of corporate reinforcements arrived, rushing toward the central hub. But Vera and Elias had prepared for this. Lyrans outside the facility, armed with makeshift weapons and newly learned tactics, created diversions and ambushes. The humans' energy pulses combined with Lyrans' abilities disrupted the attackers' coordination. Each move was calculated, every reaction precise. Vera felt exhilaration and focus unlike anything before. Every decision mattered. Every moment counted. She had been a slave once, powerless and afraid, but now she was a strategist, a leader, and a fighter. The fear that had ruled her life was gone, replaced by clarity, courage, and purpose. The battle raged, but the tide quickly turned in favor of the Lyrans and Elias. Guards were disarmed, drones disabled, and energy fields controlled by Vera blocked reinforcements from entering. Slowly, the corporate forces began to retreat, their once powerful command hub now in the hands of those they had underestimated. In the control room, Vera activated a final sequence that would disable the facility's central mining operations permanently. The machines shuddered, lights flickered, and the hum of industry slowed to silence. The corporation's hold on Zythera was broken. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling. "You did it." Vera shook her head. "We did it." Together, the freed Lyrans gathered outside the hub, cheering, their voices carrying across the complex. For the first time in generations, they were truly free. Some wept, some laughed, and some simply stood in awe of what they had accomplished. Vera looked around, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had been powerless once, but now she had helped reclaim not just her freedom, but the freedom of her entire people. Elias guided the Star Warden down to meet the Lyrans. Vera stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "You are free," she said, her voice steady and strong. "This is your world. No one can take it from you again. Stand together, support each other, and rebuild what was lost." The Lyrans nodded, their eyes shining with determination. For the first time, they felt that the universe was not a place that punished them for being different. They had power, intelligence, and courage. They had proven that even those who were underestimated could achieve extraordinary things. As the sun rose over the jagged cliffs of Zythera, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, Vera walked beside Elias, her heart lighter than it had ever been. "The fight is over," she said softly. For now, Elias replied, "But freedom is a journey, not a destination. We'll help them rebuild, protect their people, and make sure the corporation never returns." Then we begin the next chapter. In the days that followed, Vera and Elias worked tirelessly. They trained Lyrans in tactics, technology, and energy control. Together, they established safe zones, rebuilt communication networks, and created a council to govern Zythera's people fairly and wisely. The planet began to thrive, its beauty no longer overshadowed by oppression. Vera became a symbol of hope and resilience. She had once been a slave, but now she was a leader, respected and admired by her people. Her partnership with Elias exemplified what could be achieved when humans and aliens work together, trusting each other and valuing each other's strengths. One evening, after a long day of planning and teaching, Vera and Elias stood on a ridge overlooking the restored city. The twin suns of Zythera set, casting golden light over the landscape.
You know, Vera said quietly, I never imagined life could be like this.
Neither did I, but you've reminded me that courage, intelligence, and heart can change everything.
Vera glanced at him, gratitude and respect shining in her eyes. You taught me to trust, to fight, and to hope. And I've learned that I can be more than I ever thought possible.
Elias reached for her hand, and together, we'll make sure that Zythera stays free. Not because of me, not because of you, but because of all of us, humans and Lyrans alike.
She squeezed his hand, feeling the bond they had built through trials, strategy, and shared courage. Their relationship was one of mutual respect, partnership, and understanding. A human and a Lyran, united by purpose and the fight for freedom. The galaxy beyond Zythera awaited, filled with unknown dangers and opportunities. But Vera no longer feared it. She had survived oppression, fought against overwhelming odds, and helped liberate her people. She was ready for whatever came next. As the first stars appeared in the evening sky, Vera and Elias looked toward the horizon, knowing that the story of Zythera was only beginning. Freedom had been won, and with it the promise of a future where courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the greatest challenges. For the first time in her life, Vera felt truly powerful, not because of force, but because of choice, determination, and the belief that she could shape her own destiny. And beside her, Elias shared that belief, a human who had crossed the stars to fight for what was right, proving that even in a vast and dangerous universe, hope and courage were the greatest powers of all. Zythera was free. Vera was free. And together, humans and Lyrans had shown the galaxy what could happen when the underestimated rise to claim their place in the stars.